Welcome to the LDN Radio Show, brought to you by the LDN Research Trust. I'm your host, Linda Elsiegood. I have an exciting lineup of guest speakers who are LDN experts in their field. We will be discussing low-dose Naltrexone and its many uses in autoimmune diseases, cancers, etc. Thank you for joining us. Today we're joined by Tracy from the United States, who's going to share her journey with us of MCAS, hEDS and POTS. Thank you for joining us today, Tracy.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So could you tell us, when did you first notice symptoms?
Well, I think everyone around me first noticed symptoms early in childhood, but we didn't know what it was. When I was a child, I would get spontaneous hives all over my body. We joked around that I was allergic to touch. And so you touched me, you could write on me just by very gently touching my skin. And so I was kind of like a circus trick. I was also very underweight, very slow to develop, very late to develop, and always sick. But I was also, when they couldn't figure out, they didn't really try to figure out what was going on. This is back in the 70s. So they just wrote me off as being a hypochondriac. And then it wasn't until I actually moved to France and when I was 25 years old and I passed out that I was actually diagnosed with POTS. And that was explained to me, and I learned how to manage that through increased salt and exercise and really weird compression garments that looked like they were out of the 1950s. I had a rigid corset for a while. It was really odd. And then I just learned how to live with it. But I went into a flare back in September of 2021. And that since then, I've been very, very ill, very debilitated. And that's when the investigations really started to pick up. And we identified that I have the hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos and dysautonomia. And it's just started the experimental approach to treating my symptoms. And then after having COVID in 2022, I started developing these really unusual allergic reactions to things. And then was further evaluated and identified to have 70 out of 100 tested allergies, which has been really impactful. And I'm parceled out. You know those posters you see that show the side of a cow, show a side of beef, and it's parceled off to different portions. That's how I feel as a person. I'm parceled out to different specialists. And if we can only get them to come and sit around the table and have a conversation with each other, maybe that would be a more effective approach, a holistic approach. But just had yet another round of testing, and I'm still a mystery. Still trying to figure out how to reduce my symptoms.
Mm-hmm. What medications are you taking for the MCAS?
So for MCAS, I take H1 and H2 inhibitors. So I take, in America, it's branded as Allegra and Pepcid. I take cromolyn sodium. And I just started quercetin, a supplement, a few weeks ago. And that's actually something that seems to be helping. In addition, I was doing a trial of, I think it's called Dupimulab, the generic name, Dupixent. I started that back in November, but just decided with my allergist to discontinue that on Monday. And we're going to wait for a couple of months before going the next step. Oh, and Zafirlukast. It's a leukotriene inhibitor or antagonist. So I take that twice a day as well. And that's in addition to the medication I take for POTS.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
So what do you take night and morning?
Well, my day starts with, let's see if I can run this off. I'm hypothyroid as well since I was in my 20s. So I start off with levothyroxine and I take dextroamphetamine extended release. That's to help with POTS and ADHD. And I take the Zafirlukast, Pepsid, Allegra, Cromolyn, um, magnesium, quercetin, and also because I've developed osteoporosis, I'm on a low dose birth control pill, even though I'm approaching 54 years old. And to help with sleep at night, I take 50 milligrams of trazodone. And then diazepam as needed when my heart rate gets really, really high and doesn't respond to other approaches.
Mm-hmm. And what about the rest of the day? Do you take medications before bed?
So I repeat the same regimen. The morning
Okay.
regimen gets repeated at night, except for, just the allergy meds, the Cromolyn and the Allegra and Pepsid.
Do you take any sort of lunchtime?
I just Cromolyn 4 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, throughout the day, I've got my trusty electrolytes. Finding one that I can tolerate with all of my allergies was a challenge, but I did. And that does help. I stay very hydrated. I've got my feet up under my desk with my compression stockings on, and yeah, it's a full-time job.
So could you walk us through, you've told us about your medication regime. What's a typical day for you? What time do you get up? What do you do through till bedtime?
Okay, so I've been mostly housebound since September of 21. My big outings are going to doctor appointments or lab appointments. Occasionally, if I have the energy, I can participate in a family gathering. Um, I have post-exertional malaise. Anytime I put out energy, it takes me many days to recoup that. So in the morning, I wake up. My husband, very kind, he takes wonderful care of me. I have two youngest children. I have an 11-year-old and a 15-year-old. So I start the day by waking up. I have my cup of tea, and then I have to wait an hour with between my thyroid medication, and then I have to take my Zafirlukast and wait an hour before I can eat. And then I have to take the other medications with food. And all this time I'm in bed. Once I'm out of bed, I actually mostly stay in bed or in my recliner. As you can see behind me, I am a tutor. I'm a former special education teacher. And I was fortunate to work with a consultant throughout the years who has found me tutoring students that I can work with over Zoom. And so I have 5 hours a week with students online, um, which is wonderful, but it also wears me out and takes a good amount of prep that ordinarily back in the day would not have required so much effort. But brain fog is pretty intense. And so I have to do battle with that. And so basically my day is I get up, I take my medications, have breakfast, prepare for my students, meet with my students, get back into bed, welcome my children home, hear about their days. I tend to have my meals in bed because going down to the kitchen is exhausting and hard for me. And plus, it's very cold down there. I have temperature intolerance. And we have a large house that's very expensive to heat. And so we keep my quarters heated differently than the rest of the house. And then I have an early bedtime. And if I'm lucky and the brain fog allows, I'll read. And if I'm not, then I'll just watch television. Um, when I'm lucky with my daughter, um, I should mention something else. Something that helps with my cognition is I start my day every day with a New York Times suite of word games. And I would say that they have really, really helped with my brain fog. Doing crossword puzzles. There's a game called the Spelling Bee, doing Wordle. There are different games like that that help to wake me up and get my brain active. So
It certainly is a case with the brain, isn't it? Is use it or lose it. You have to keep it active.
I try. but it's amazing. It seems that the more I use it, the more I lose it. My friends and family, they really don't understand. I have a devoted cousin who is, really likes to stay connected. But after, talking on the phone for a half hour, I'm exhausted and I really need downtime to recover from that. And after seeing students, I need downtime to recover from that. So I don't have that stamina that I once had. I used to be very sharp, very quick. I'm sure I've lost a lot of IQ points. Um, and I miss being quick on my feet, you know? I've lost a lot of life through these illnesses. And I would like to get that back. Not
But
giving up.
I should think tutoring your students is good for them, but also good for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm working with kids who are in underserved communities and who are significantly behind their same aged peers in other school districts. And so being able to meet with them and to meet them where they are and boost their skills in a safe environment, it's meaningful for both of us. But it certainly gives me a sense of purpose that I really need to have to feel good about myself overall. Um, because I do miss working and I'm grateful to be able to do this. So
Have you, on your journey, been dismissed by the medical professionals?
I've been very fortunate. I live outside of Boston, Massachusetts, where I have access to some of the best care in the country. And it was just a stroke of luck that I was able to be tested by one of the top autonomic neurologists recognized. He's been at this for many, many years. And I was tested by him and then accepted into his clinic. And I typically meet with his physician assistant, and she's wonderful. I have trialed countless medications that haven't worked for me, and she has been incredibly patient, helping me to find, the best possible treatments. Oh, I should also mention, I forgot, I'm also treated every 3 months with Botox for hyperhidrosis because, oh, and I forgot clay copy rolate for hyperhidrosis because my body temperature doesn't regulate properly because of my autonomic dysfunction. I can be freezing cold but soaked in sweat. And so these treatments help to regulate that. And I recently added that glycopyrrolate, and that has actually made quite a difference. I only have to change my clothing a couple of times a day now instead
Yeah.
of 10 times a day.
Wow.
That's helpful.
Yes, I bet.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to other people who have yet to be diagnosed?
It's very hard to be a patient. And I think number one, especially, I mean, I know here that the we have a dearth of providers who specialize in these conditions. And so when you do find one, you have to find a way to be a squeaky wheel, but also a very respectful squeaky wheel. We're all desperate for help. Um, I am, it's just always been my nature to be kind and respectful and polite. And when I interact with people, whether it's medical receptionists or assistants or nursing staff, to just always acknowledge and validate the work that they do and be grateful for it. And it's interesting because they often say how they're often abused by patients who are frustrated. So I would say just remember that we're all human and that everybody in the industry, everyone in the health field, their hands are tied and they're doing the best they can with the resources they have, and that treating people with kindness is just an overall good approach, and it makes you feel better about yourself as well. Um, and you're likely to get a better response too, because when we're all human, we treat each other differently. Um, the other recommendation I have is make sure that you're tapping reliable resources. There are organizations that are very, very helpful. I've been learning so much through yours, which was I just recently discovered. So I'm beginning the journey of seeing if I can subsidize meeting with an online provider to try a prescription once I clear this other medication from my system. I was advised to clear the Dupixent before trying something new. Um, Make sure that, when you're looking at read journal articles, don't just read the first things that pop up in a Google search. Don't attempt to interpret your own lab results. Ask the professionals for help. I recently had a slate of labs that when I Googled them at first, I was like, okay, great, I've got cancer. I'm in trouble. I don't necessarily have cancer. Um, I'm actually being evaluated for that in a couple of weeks. For I have a diagnostic mammogram coming up, but I'm not worried about it. I just figure it's good to be safe. Sorry, I'm a little breathless. And I also have brain fog, so I forgot your original question.
Well, we've come to the end, so I'm
Oh
sure
God.
you're getting tired. So I think a break will do you good.
I tend to run on when the fog rolls in.
So,
So,
yeah, thank you very much, Tracy, for
oh God,
sharing your journey with us. And
sure.
good luck with hunting out that LDN prescription.
Thank you. I'm hopeful that that will be a key that will unlock improvement for me, and I will consider pursuing that. And
Um,
thank you. I read a bit about you this morning, and thank you for using your experience and translating it into action to help others. That takes great courage and resilience, and to use your resources to share them. Kudos.
oh, thank you.
Many grateful people for the work you do.
Well, you take care and
Thank
bye
you.
for
You
now.
too. All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye. Take care.
I'm Dr. Leonard Weinstock, a guy who's been prescribing LDN since 2005, and I've seen the wonders. And I keep on seeing them, especially in hard to diagnose conditions. They're not that hard to do, but once you know about Mast Cell Activation Syndrome, Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia Syndrome, and Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, you'll find that 17% of your friends or relatives have one or more of these conditions, and you can help them. We're making a documentary to wake up the medical community, to educate the population, but we need funding. So please fund whatever you can afford, no matter how little, www.mcasfund.com. That's mcasfund.com.
Any questions or comments you may have, please email me, Linda, Linda, at ldnrt.org. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciated your company. Until next time, stay safe and keep well.